Main function of forest research: biodiversity assessment, forest dynamic and structure study, ecosystem service and evaluation, climate change and carbon research, and human forest interaction, conservation policy support. Tools use: remote sensing, GIS, data modeling, field survey. Type of statics: can see type of statics descriptive र inferential हुन्छ. Descriptive purpose: summarize, organize and simplify data. Summarize गर्छ, organize गर्छ, simplify data. टुल्सहरू: frequency distribution, chart and diagram र measure of central tendency, mean, median, mode, and measure of variation, variability, range, variance, standard deviation, skewness and kurtosis, correlation and causal analysis, and inferential statics मा चाहिँ propose, make conclusion about a population from sample data and including estimation, point and interval, hypothesis testing, parametric test, ZT, app test and ANOVA. Non-parametric test: Wilcon index, Wilcon, Man Whitney, chi-square र Kruskal Wallis. and parametric vs non-parametric. parametricमा चाहिँ feature, data type, continuous interval र ratio, र non-parametricमा categorical र ordinal. ओके, and distributionमा चाहिँ normal assumption and no assumption, distribution free. example चाहिँ Z test, T test and app test, ANOVA. and chi-square मा चाहिँ Wilcox, Man Whitney and Friedman. and hypothesis in statics. okay, hypothesis: testable statement about population parameter. type: null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. null hypothesis मा चाहिँ null hypothesis, no difference or effort. and alternative hypothesis मा चाहिँ H1 or HA, difference or effective exist. example: yield by seed or vs branch cutting is the same. male vs female participation in forest management is equal. soil carbon depends on soil depth. and error in hypothesis testing मा चाहिँ type error, type, meaning and risk. type I र type I भने alpha, beta, and type I meaning reject true, reject is not, meaning चाहिँ reject is I मा reject is not, and error 2 मा चाहिँ accept is not. के अरे accept सरी यस्तो हुन्छ यसमा रिजेक्ट गरिन्छ ट्रु एस नटलाई जति बेला नल हाइपोथेसिस रिजेक्ट हुन्छ त्यो चाहिँ टाइप आई, जति बेला नल एक्सेप्ट हुन्छ फल्स हाइपोथेसिस, जति बेला ट्रु हाइपोथेसिस रिजेक्ट हुन्छ टाइप आई एरर, र जति बेला नल हाइपोथेसिस एक्सेप्ट हुन्छ, फल्स हाइपोथेसिस गलत हाइपोथेसिस चाहिँ एक्सेप्ट हुन्छ, त्यो चाहिँ एरर 2. एरर आईमा चाहिँ प्रड्युसर्स रिस्क हुन्छ, प्रड्युसर रिस्क, र आईमा चाहिँ कन्ज्युमर रिस्क. ओके, रिजोइन इन हाइपोथेसिस सेटिङ: क्रिटिकल रिजेक्सन is not is rejected, and acceptance region S naught is accepted. Critical value boundary between acceptance and rejection. And commercial statistical test and Z test. We can see Z test लार्ज स्याम्पल एन बढी हुन्छ 30 भन्दा बढी स्याम्पल हुन्छ नोन भेराएबल हुन्छ है जेड टेस्ट नोन हुन्छ र 30 भन्दा बढी स्याम्पल साइज हुन्छ त्यसपछि यो चाहिँ सिंगल मिनमा र डिफरेन्स बिट्विन मिनमा युज हुन्छ टी टेस्टमा चाहिँ स्याम्पल साइज 30 या 30 भन्दा सानो हुन्छ र अननोन भेराएबल हुन्छ है त 30 या 30 भन्दा सानो र अननोन भेराएबल सिंगल मिन टु इन्डिपेन्डेन्ट मिन र पेयर्ड मिन कोरिलेसन रिग्रेसनमा एप टेस्ट एनोभा कम्पेयर भेरिएन्स मिन्स इक्वालिटी अफ पपुलेसन मिन्स एन्ड त्यसपछि काई स्क्वायरमा चाहिँ नन पारामेट्रिक क्याटेगोरिकल हुन्छ नन पारामेट्रिक क्याटेगोरिकल र गुडनेस अफ फिट चाहिँ इन्डिपेन्डेन्स अफ एट्रिब्युट हो र डिग्री अफ फ्रिडम नम्बर अफ भ्यालु फ्री टु भेरी वान स्याम्पल टी टेस्ट n-1 टु स्याम्पल टी टेस्ट चाहिँ n1 प्लस n2 -2 ओके n1 प्लस n2 -2 र करेक्सन फ्याक्टर चाहिँ टी टेस्टमा चाहिँ n-2 ओके स्टेप इन हाइपोथेसिस स्टेट S1 S0 ओके नल हाइपोथेसिस चुज one tail or two tail test and set significant level and choose appropriate test ZTR chi-square collect data and compute test statistics and compare with critical value interpret and basics concept of experimental design बेसिस कन्सेप्टहरु जान्नु एक्सपेरिमेन्टल डिजाइनको डेफिनेसन स्ट्रक्चर प्लान टु कन्डक्ट एक्सपेरिमेन्ट ensuring valid analysis and estimation of treatment effect and key terms चाहिँ experiment process of test hypothesis seed quality र fertilizer impact absolute measurement चाहिँ measuring characteristics र easy average DBS relative measurement चाहिँ comparing effect and silviculture treatment experimental material चाहिँ subject under experiment and easy tree and experimental unit चाहिँ unit to which treatment are applied र treatment चाहिँ factor applied thinning grade and yield र response चाहिँ measure output per EU experimental unit basal area experimental error चाहिँ variation due to uncontrollable factor and control group चाहिँ no treatment and experimental group चाहिँ receives treatment objectives चाहिँ plan and structure experiment test statistical hypothesis properly arrange treatment experimental unit step in experimental design मा चाहिँ define dependent and independent variable choose experimental material and determine treatment method management record and tabulate data analyze data statistically draw valid inference and principle of experimental design मा चाहिँ randomization replication and local control assign treatment randomly to unit and random number table. Replication, repeat treatment on multiple unit, 3 to 5 plot per thinning grade. And local control, block stratify to control the divide forest into control variability or homogeneous blocks. Okay, and you can see example treatment thinning graded A, B, C, D, and experimental unit plot within 1 hectare. Forest response basal area, control group D nothing, experimental group A something. Complete randomized design CRD, simple experimental design. All experimental unit are considered homogeneous, and treatment are assigned purely at random. Treatment purely at random, single factor design with or without replication. And homogeneity, homogeneity, look at the homogeneity. Assume all unit are similar, plant are same age, cow of same breed. And randomization, treatment assigned randomly to unit. And replication, each treatment can be repeated to measure variability. And experimental error, variation among unit receiving same treatment. And application in forestry say thinning intensity in plantation. And static example र light condition on nursery plant. Thinning intensity in plantation, treatment control 15, 25, 35 sloping. And response variables fodder yield, basal area growth. Light condition on nursery plant चाहिँ open shade र tunnel, height, leaf area and biomass. And fertilizer type on seedling चाहिँ compost, cow dung र chemical control control, germination percent, height, biomass. And mathematical model one way ANOVA CRD को yij is equals to mu plus tau I plus eij हो. Response of unit receiving treatment I. And overall means mu भने overall mean. And tau भने effect of treatment I. eij भने random error. Okay, model assumption, independent observation हुन्छ. And normal distribution of error, adaptive treatment and error effect, equal or unequal replication yellow. ANOVA table CRD treatment. Okay, treatment T minus 1, त्यसपछि sum of square of treatment means sum of treatment is equals to sum of square of treatment upon T minus 1. and error चाहिँ n minus T. sum of square of error हुन्छ mean sum of square of error is equals to sum of square of error upon n minus T. and total चाहिँ n minus 1 र total sum of square is equals to sum of square of treatment plus sum of square of error. Okay, decision rule, if app calculated भन्दा app calculated भन्दा tabulated सानो छ भने रिजेक्ट हाइपोथेसिस. क्यालकुलेटेड ठुलो छ, ट्याबुलेटेड सानो छ भने रिजेक्ट हाइपोथेसिस. ट्रिटमेन्ट इफेक्ट सिग्निफिकेन्ट हुन्छ. इफ एफ क्यालकुलेटेड चाहिँ एफ ट्याबुलेटेड ठुलो छ एफ क्यालकुलेटेड भन्दा अर्थात् बराबर छ भने फेल टु रिजेक्ट. ओके, एक्सेप्ट null hypothesis, treatment effect not significant, and merit simple, flexible, easy to analyze हुन्छ र maximum degree of freedom for error, suitable for lab nursery study, handle missing data well. Merit not suitable for large number of treatment, rarely valid for heterogeneous field condition, error may include uncontrolled variation, and randomized block design RCBD use when experimental unit are not homogeneous. Okay, use गर्न सकिन्छ when experimental unit are not homogeneous, and until unit are grouped into block based on similarity, and treatment are randomized within each blocks, and reduce experimental error caused by heterogeneity, and feature चाहिँ blocking randomization, replication, and error control. Blocking group similar unit, soil type, slopes, and into blocks. Randomization, treatment randomized within each blocks, and replication, blocks serve as replication to control variability. Error control, variation between block removed from error teams, and application in forestry मा चाहिँ field trial with heterogeneous condition, soil fertility study across different plot, growth comparison of tree species on varying slope or soil type. Merit चाहिँ reduce experimental error due to heterogeneity, and more precise than RCD due under field condition, suitable for moderate number of treatment, and more complex than CRD. Reduce careful blocking to match experimental unit. Analysis slightly more complicated, and completely randomized design, randomized block design, the square design. Definition: simplest design, all unit homogeneous, treatment assigned randomly. Okay, even as CRD. RCBD, unit not homogeneous, grouped into blocked. Okay, treatments randomized within each blocks. Okay, and LSD, Latin square मा चाहिँ control two source of variation, and row and column, and each treatment appears once per row and columns, and we can see blocking, no blocking assumes all unit similar, and S हुन्छ groups similar unit is altitude, slope, and soil. 2 block factor, row and columns. Replication, each treatment repeated multiple times, र each treatment appears once per blocks. No replication required. Treatment appears once per row and columns, and error control, variation among unit receiving same treatment is error. Blocks account for variability, reduce experimental error. Control variability in two directions, reduce experimental error. Model ANOVA, one way, y ij is equals to mu plus tau I plus eij भन्ने भयो. के भन्ने भयो त, वान way हुने भयो, y ij plus mu plus tau I plus eij यो हुने भयो। त्यसपछि ब्लक त्यसपछि 2 वे हुन्छ र वाइआइजे हैन वाइआइजे म्यू प्लस इक्वल्स टु म्यू प्लस टाउ आई प्लस बीटा जे प्लस इआइजे हुने भयो। अब 3 वेमा चाहिँ वाइआइजे के म्यू प्लस अल्फा प्लस बीटा प्लस टाउ के प्लस के त इआइजेके एजम्सन इन्डिपेन्डेन्ट के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि इन्डिपेन्डेन्ट अब्जर्भेसन हुन्छ, नर्मल इरर हुन्छ, एडक्टिभ इफेक्ट हुन्छ, एडक्टिभिटी अफ ट्रिटमेन्ट एन्ड ब्लक इफेक्ट, नर्मल इन्डिपेन्डेन्ट इरर एन्ड होमोजिनियस विथिन ब्लक एन्ड adaptivity of row column treatment effect, normal independent error and homogeneous unit. And we can see application in forestry: thinning intensity, nursery plant growth, fertilizer type on seedling, and tree growth at different altitude, nursery trial with shade variation, agroforestry on trace and small scale nursery trial, trace row, soil aspect study, and control experiment with two variable source. And merit मा चाहिँ सिम्पल हुन्छ, फ्लेक्सिबल हुन्छ, easy to analyze हो, maximum degree of freedom for error, and handles missing data well, and more precise than CRD. Okay, control blocked variability, effective for few treatment, and efficient for small experiment, reduce experimental error, and no replication required. त्यसपछि छ डिमेरिट नै चाहिँ नट सुइटेबल फर many treatment, field trial with heterogeneity problematics, and not suitable for many treatment. All treatment must appear in each blocks, and data management harder, and number of treatment चाहिँ row is equals to column, complex analysis, inflexible for missing data or unequal replication. Tips to remember चाहिँ use when experimental unit are uniform, and use when one source of variable exit, use when two source of variable exit, row and column act as block. And we can see mode n one way. Okay, yij is equals to म्यू प्लस टाउ आई प्लस इआइजे, त्यसपछि टू वे वाइआइजे इज इक्वल्स टू म्यू प्लस टाउ आई प्लस बिजे प्लस इआइजे, 3 वे चाहिँ वाइआइजे के म्यू प्लस अल्फा आई प्लस बीटा जे प्लस टाउ के प्लस इआइजे के, एक्सपेरिमेंटल डिजाइन इन फॉरेस्ट्री, complete randomized design. You can see same as homogeneity, random replication, variable. Okay, same as okay our randomized block design. same ANOVA. You can see Latin square design, same factorial experiment in forestry, research. A factorial experiment studied two or more factors. Okay, two or more factors simultaneously, including all possible combination of forest level. Purpose: understanding mean effect and interaction effect. Mean effect र interaction effect पत्ता लगाउनु पर्यो. Main effect र interaction effect. Okay. अब factor and meaning. Factor: independent variable, fertilizer type र tree species. Independent variable भनेपछि level, specific value or category of a forest, is low, medium, high fertilizer treatment is combination of factor level. Factor level is fertilizer A plus set B. Main effect effect on one factor ignoring the other. And त्यसपछि छ interaction effect, joint effect of two or more factors that differ from the sum of individual effect. Type of factorial expectation: factorial 2 into 2 and factorial 3 into 3. Okay. And 2 level per factor, simple and most popular. 3 level per factor. Okay. Mixed factor चाहिँ different number of level for each factor. Different number of level for each factor. Mathematical model: 2 into 2 factorial with RCD. If yijk is the response at the ith level of factor A, jth level of factor B, and in the kth replication is yijk is equals to mu alpha I beta j plus alpha beta ij plus yk plus eijk. Okay. Mu overall mean, alpha I effect of ith level of factor A, bj effect of jth level of factor B, and alpha beta ij interaction effect of factor A and B, and yk effect of kth replicate block, and eijk experimental unit. Assumption चाहिँ observation are independent and population is normally distributed, effect are divided, additives, and SST is equals to SSA. Okay. Sum of square of treatment is equals to sum of square of A upon plus sum of square of B plus sum of square of AB plus sum of square of A. Okay. Residual error eijk identically or independently distributed with mean 0 and constant variable. And advantage चाहिँ study interaction between factor. Okay. Factor save time and resource by combining experiment, provide more precise and reliable result. Disadvantage: complexity, increase rapidity with more factor, require large sample size, difficult to implicate in field condition, risk of confounding and overlapping effect of factors. And we can see ANOVA table 2 factor A and B मा चाहिँ factor A factor B. Factor A degree of freedom A minus 1, factor B B minus A, and sum of square of A, sum of square of B, mean sum of square of A, sum of square of A upon A minus A, mean sum of square of B, B minus A, mean sum of A by mean sum of error. Okay. Mean sum of B mean sum of F ratio चाहिँ mean sum of E. Okay. Interaction A and B मा चाहिँ A minus 1 B minus 1, sum of square of A, sum of square of AB, sum of square of AB A by A minus 1 b minus 1 sum of square of ab upon sum of square of error ab r minus 1 sum of square of e and mean sum of e and sum of square of e by ab r minus 1 and total चाहिँ abr minus 1 र total sum of square. Okay, decision rules चाहिँ use app test to check significance of for ab and ab. Okay, significant interaction effect of one factor depends on the level of other. F calculated बढी छ F tabulated भन्दा reject as not. Okay, calculated बढी भयो भने reject र calculated कम भयो भने accept. Split plot design. Okay, a split plot design is used when two factor A and B are studied simultaneously but one factor requires large plot or is harder to apply. It allows different precision level for the two factor. Main plot factor A less precision हुन्छ र सब प्लट चाहिँ factor B हुन्छ more precision हुन्छ है त. When use split plot design condition factor sign र factor sign चाहिँ you can see need large plot. Okay, you can see factor assigned condition factor assigned need large plot condition भयो भने main plot हुन्छ सब प्लट चाहिँ स्मलर हुन्छ. त्यो मोर प्रिसिजन निडेड भयो भने सब प्लट हुन्छ मेन प्लट चाहिँ लस प्रिसिजन हुन्छ. लार्ज एक्सपेक्टेड इफेक्ट चाहिँ मेन प्लट हुन्छ सब प्लट चाहिँ स्मलर स्टालर इफेक्ट हुन्छ. र एक्जाम्पल लेआउट वी क्यान सी रिप्लिकेसन आई रिप्लिकेसन 2 रिप्लिकेसन 3 रिप्लिकेसन आई n1 n2 n3 n4 रिप्लिकेसन मेन प्लट ए नाइट्रोजन लेभल सब प्लस बी भेराइटिज v1 v2 v3 पर मेन प्लट n2 n3 n1 n4 v1 v2 v3 per plot. Okay, we can see is similar and linear model चाहिँ yijk is equals to mu plus ri plus aj plus eij plus bk plus abjk plus eijk. Okay, aj त्यसपछि rj ri block replication effect aj main plot effect factor A is fertilizer eij error for main plot and bk subplot effect and factor B is variability abjk interaction effect between A and B and eijk error for subplot and ANOVA table. You can see ANOVA table replication blocks. Okay, source of variation main plot र error main plot. Okay, r minus 1 degree of freedom r minus 1 sum of square of replication sum of mean sum of replication f ratio n by formula and main plot a minus 1 र sum of square of a mean sum of a and mean sum of a by mean by a and error main plot r minus 1 a minus 1 sum of square of a and mean a. Okay, and subplot b minus 1 sum of square of b and mean sum of b means sum of b by me. Okay, interaction a into b a minus 1 र b minus 1 sum of square of ab and mean sum of ab by MEB. Error subplot a r minus 1 b minus 1 and sum of square of e b mean error b total चाहिँ RAB minus 1 TSS. okay, and decision criteria चाहिँ F test compare calculated with table value F tabulated. If calculated bodies are tabulated, reject S not significant mean effect, subplot effect or interaction effect. F calculated भन्दा F tabulated ठुलो छ बराबर छ भनेपछि एक्सेप्ट हुन्छ एज नट. ओके, की पोइन्ट टु रिमेम्बर. ओके, की पोइन्ट टु रिमेम्बर. फ्याक्टर ए assign to main plot, hard to apply and lost precision. Factor B assign to subplot, easier to apply and more precision. Low efficient study of interaction between factor with unequal precision and often laid out RBD with split plot and we can say experiment. Example of forest research in Nepal. Nepal, with diverse forest ecosystem, has conducted various forest research projects. Some notable example include के include गर्न सकिन्छ त program research. okay, in service training for forest officers on forest development and administration. and year चाहिँ annual र funding source government of Nepal and developing methodology to assess forest sector contribution to national economy. and 2019 NGO government of Nepal national level forest and land 2019 USAID र WWF Hariyapan and covering analysis using Google Earth image. and we can see overview of different agroforestry model across ecological zone 2019 government of Nepal. remeasurement of permanent sample plot PSP 16 देखि 19 government of Nepal र World Bank. assessment of forest quality growth and regeneration in कपिलवस्तु भयो भने 2017 देखि 17 र गभर्नमेन्ट अफ नेपाल. selection of species to rehabilitate degraded land in चुरे एन्ड मिडिल भन्यो भने चाहिँ 2017 गभर्नमेन्ट अफ नेपाल. एन्ड भोलुम टेबल अफ सोरिया र अवस्था टर्मिनली अलर्ट एन्ड एनोजियस ल्याटिफोलिया फर वेस्टर्न तराई भयो भने चाहिँ 2017 गभर्नमेन्ट अफ नेपाल. assigning local people dependency on चुरे फरेस्ट रिसोर्सेस भयो भने 2017 गभर्नमेन्ट अफ नेपाल. फरेस्ट रिसर्च स्ट्र्याटेजी फर्मुलेसन 2017 गभर्नमेन्ट अफ नेपाल. म्यापिङ डिफोरेस्टेसन एन्ड डिग्रेडेसन इन चुरे इस्टर्न नेपाल 2015 गभर्नमेन्ट अफ नेपाल. आइडेन्टिफिकेसन अफ रिक्लेमेसन एन्ड प्लान्टेसन एरिया इन बागमती रिभर बेसिन भन्यो 2015 र गभर्नमेन्ट अफ नेपाल. एसेसमेन्ट अफ रिजेनेरेसन पोटेन्सियल अफ सोरिया र अवस्था इन तराई भने 2015 गभर्नमेन्ट अफ नेपाल. एन्ड वी क्यान सी लिभलीहुड इम्प्रुभमेन्ट बाय ब्याम्बो कल्टिभेसन क्यापासिटी बिल्डिङ 2013-15 USAID WWF हरियोवन. एन्ड प्रिभेन्टिङ एन्ड कन्ट्रोल मेथड अफ डिजिज एन्ड पेस्ट इन नर्सरी 2012 र गभर्नमेन्ट अफ नेपाल. रिभ्यू अफ ट्रेडिसनल ब्याम्बो एन्ड रतन टेक्नोलोजी 2011 गभर्नमेन्ट अफ नेपाल र MDBRPP नेसनल लेभल फरेस्ट रिसोर्स एसेसमेन्ट एफआरए 10 देखि 14 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल, गभर्मेन्ट अफ फिनल्यान्ड एन्ड दुईटाले गर्दा है त नेपाल र फिनल्यान्ड। त्यसपछि रिभ्यू अफ वेस्टर्न मार्केट फर ब्याम्बो एन्ड रतन 2010 गभर्मेन्ट र एमडिबी आरपिपी र ट्री आउटसाइड फरेस्ट एसेसमेन्ट इन नवलपरासी एन्ड धनुषा 2008 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल। म्यानेजमेन्ट अप्सन फर डिग्रेडेड साल फरेस्ट इन तलाई 2009 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल। इन्टरनेसनल इन्फर्मेसन अन सिड ट्रिटमेन्ट अफ सपिन्डस म्युक्रोजी 2009 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल। एन्ड provincial provenance trial of Azadirachta indica 2008 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल। कपिस म्यानेजमेन्ट टेक्निक्स एन्ड इन्फर्मेसन 2008 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल। रिसर्च प्लट अफ पुल फाइलोस्टाची पुबेसेन्स इन काभ्रे 2007 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल। थिनिङ गाइडलाइन्स फर पाइनस प्यासुला एन्ड पाइनस रक्सबर्गाई 2007 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल। एन्ड की हाइलाइटेडहरू चाहिँ रिसर्च स्पेन्स फरेस्ट म्यानेजमेन्ट सिल्भिकल्चर एन्ड बायोडाइभर्सिटी एग्रो फरेस्ट्री फरेस्ट इकोनोमिक्स एन्ड नर्सरी टेक्निक्स। गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल इज द मेजर फन्डिङ सोर्स। International agency like USAID, WWF, Hariyo One and Finland contributed to some project. Focus area includes forest growth and regeneration, Kapilvastu Tarai Chure, agroforestry model across ecological zone, bamboo and rattan technology and market analysis, species selection and provenance trial for degraded land, forest resource assessment and policy strategy, and continue forest resource in Nepal होइन 2026-43 यो होला। स्टडी अन ब्याम्बो रतन स्टक्स युटिलाइजेसन एन्ड प्लान्टेसन 5देखि 11 डिएफआरएस एमडी बीआरपीपी मल्टिपर्पोज क्यासियासाइमा ट्रायल फर तराई एन्ड इनर तराई 2005 जिओएन। त्यसपछि पार्टिसिपेटोरी रिसर्च इन कम्युनिटी फरेस्ट्री 2004 जिओएन। इम्प्याक्ट अफ फरेस्ट म्यानेजमेन्ट अन कम्युनिटी फरेस्ट बायोडाइभर्सिटी 2004 गन। एन्ड नेचुरल रिजेनेरेसन टेक्निक्स अफ सूर्य र अस्त 2001 गन। वाइडर एरिया ट्रोपिकल फरेस्ट सर्वे 1999 2000 ह्युमन एचएमजिएन जेएएफटिए डाइभ्याक इन्भेस्टिगेसन अफ डलवर्गिया सिसौँ 1999 जिओएन। तराई डिफोरेस्टेसन एनालाइसिस 1978 देखि 1990 91 1994 एचएमजिएन भोलम इक्वेसन एन्ड बायोमास प्रिडिक्सन 1990 एचएमजिएन। एन्ड नेसनल फरेस्ट इन्भेन्टरी एनएफआई चाहिँ 1987 देखि 1999 जिओएन गभर्मेन्ट अफ फिनल्यान्ड। प्लान्टेसन ट्रायल इन सेन्ट्रल एन्ड मिड वेस्टर्न रिजन 1983-88 एचएमजिएन। सिएफटिपी प्लान्टेसन ट्रायल इन मिड हिल वेस्टर्न 82-85 एचएमजिएन र आरसियुपी प्लान्टेसन ट्रायल इन भेरियस रिजन 1981-86 एचएमजिएन र टिसिएफपी प्लान्टेसन ट्रायल अफ भेरियस ट्री स्पिसिस 80 र 98 HMGN and plantation trial in inner try and middle 80-85 होइन HMGN and SRP research on nursery plantation forest management bamboo growth forest soil and pathology फेज आई 79 र 86 79 र 96 HMGN र FRP फास्ट ग्रोइङ स्पिसिस सेलेक्सन ट्रायल 64-79 HMGN नेशनल फरेस्ट इन्भेन्टरी NFI 63-67 HMGN USAID and key takeaway focus Spain's forest management nursery plantation trial species selection bamboo and volume estimation deforestation analysis and biodiversity study major contributors government of Nepal HMGN his majesty government of Nepal his majesty government of Nepal भने HMGN okay DFRS DMDB RPP CFDP RCUP TCFP SRP USAID जाप्टा र अर्ली रिसर्च 1963 देखि 1980 लार्जली अन फरेस्ट इन्भेन्टोरिज प्लान्टेसन ट्रायल एन्ड फास्ट ग्रोइङ स्पिसिस सेलेक्सन रिसेन्ट रिसर्च चाहिँ 2000 अनवर्ड इम्पासाइज कम्युनिटी फरेस्ट पार्टिसिपेटोरी एप्रोच एन्ड ब्याम्बो रतन utilization natural regeneration and ecological impact study and we can see okay research title र research institution र community forestry okay you can go into study about that let's go impact of community forest on rural livelihood Nepal Canal K various work on community forest finding demonstrate positive income equity and forest regeneration outcomes carbon sequestration in Nepal in community forestry of Nepal पाण्डेले गरेर रहेछ IOF फरेस्ट कार्बन फोकस एरिया फरेस्ट कार्बन त्यसपछि फाइन्डिङ चाहिँ क्वान्टिफाई कार्बन स्टोरेज एन्ड हाइलाइटेड रेड प्लस पोटेन्सियल रिजेनेरेसन स्ट्याटस अफ साल फरेस्ट इन नेपाल आचार्य 2002 सिल्भिकल्चर एन्ड सो uneven natural regeneration needed for enrichment planting and forest cover change in Chure region using remote sensing Sharma thesis IOF Pokhara land cover change forest rapid forest degradation recommendation and zoning and afforestation bamboo resource and their utilization in eastern Nepal Thapale AFU okay NTAP documented species distribution harvesting pressure and market potential role of forest in watershed management in middle variety and watershed forestry link deforestation to erosion and sedimentation promoted integrated plantation ecological study of Chir pine Pinus Rakshabargai forest in western Nepal Malla PhD research रहेछ forest ecology provided data on stand structure regeneration and ecological succession and you can see Effect of forest management on biodiversity in community forestry of Nepal. Paudel BIOF biodiversity. Community forests show higher biodiversity than unmanaged cited fuel consumption and forest pressure in rural Nepal. Gimere RECOFTC report sociology high dependence on firewood causing degradation in central district valuation of forest ecosystem service in Shivapuri National Park. Khadka MSc thesis forest economics value water carbon and recreation service supported payment for ecosystem service scheme स्टडी अन ब्याम्बो विभिन्न खालको होइन 10-27 and research विभिन्न रिसर्चहरू we can see and forest research sector in Nepal diverse forest ecosystems have attended research across multiple themes focus on biodiversity community management climate and sustainable resource use. Key area of research include biodiversity assessment aim document plant and animal species in various forest type focus species richness distribution pattern and factor influencing biodiversity important help conservation planning and identification of priority area community based forest management aims study the effectiveness of community forestry program and biodiversity focusing biodiversity conservation livelihood improvement sustainable resource use and examples research show community forestry area often have higher biodiversity than unmanaged forest climate change and forest aim assess impact of climate change on forest ecosystems change in tree species composition shift in distribution range role of forest in carbon sequestration and importance support national and international climate mitigation strategy rate plus and forest fire ecology forest fire ecoloजीमा चाहिँ aim examine wildfire pattern and their impact focusing fire regimes in dry forest and effect on vegetation structure and regeneration prevention and management strategy and importance reduce forest degradation and protect ecological services and study spread and impact of invasive plant focusing effect on native flora and fauna control and eradication method importance maintains native biodiversity and forest health forest carbon assessment aim quantify carbon storage capacity of forest focusing above and below ground carbon and the contribution to climate change mitigation important inform national carbon accounting and red plus project ethnobotany and traditional knowledge documents and cultural and traditional forest use medicinal plant edible and utility plant cultural significance of forest to indigenous community and importance preserve traditional knowledge and support sustainable use landscape ecology okay landscape ecology study ecological connectivity between forest patches wildlife movement corridor habitat connectivity for tiger elephant rhino and importance critical for biodiversity conservation and reducing human wildlife conflict illegal logging and timber trade aim
assess the scale and impact of illegal activity, focus socioeconomic effects strategy to curb illegal logging and trade, important promote sustainable forest management and governance, and error control and management चाहिँ study of forest in soil and water conservation, soil erosion and prevention, landslide prevention, watershed protection, and impact on downstream water quality, importance and ensure ecological stability and support agriculture and hydropower sectors. And summary चाहिँ we can see बायोडाइभर्सिटी थेमहरू बायोडाइभर्सिटी स्पिसिज रिचनेस एन्ड डिस्ट्रिब्युसन की पोइन्टहरू इक्जाम्पल कन्जर्भेसन प्लान्टिङ कम्युनिटी फरेस्ट्री लिभलीहुड एन्ड फरेस्ट हेल्थ कम्युनिटी फरेस्ट म्यानेजमेन्ट क्लाइमेट स्पिसिस सिफ्ट एन्ड कार्बन रेड प्लस मिटिगेसन फायर इकोलोजी फायर इम्प्याक्ट एन्ड प्रिभेन्सन ड्राई सिजन फरेस्ट invasive species spread and control, protect native flora, forest carbon, forest carbon storage and sequestration, climate mitigation, and ethnobotany, traditional knowledge, cultural and medicinal plant, landscapes connectivity, wildlife corridor, tiger, elephant, rhinos, illegal logging, extent and control, governance and sustainability, and erosion and watershed, soil and water protection, downstreams impact, and we can see current issue and challenge of forest research in Nepal. Forest research in Nepal is crucial but face structure techniques and operational challenge. Key issue include institutional and collaboration challenge. Okay, institutional and collaboration challenge, poor networking with national and international institute, weak interaction of research across agencies, FRTC, Department of Forest and Soil Conservation, Red Plus, lack of coherence and dissemination of finding, knowledge and extension, and technical and methodological issues technical and methodological issues, limited database management and data sharing, lack of advanced technology and field lab equipment, inconsistent method, imagery and accuracy, unclear terminologies, forest degradation and deforestation, and resource output and implementation, weak translation of research into practical implementation, linked flow of on growth performance of species like agarwood, agarwood, bodhicitta, paulownia, red sandalwood. No institutional incentives or motivation for research, and human resource and capacity gaps. Okay, human resource and capacity gaps, shortage of skilled research and technical staffs, low priority given to forest research by government and institution, need for training manual and training of trainer to and to as funding and infrastructure, limited funding, restricted research scopes, poor infrastructure hinder quality research, inadequate monitoring and evaluation systems, and environmental and policy challenge, rapid land use change affecting long-term study site, and climate change uncertainty makes forest response prediction difficult. होइन, weak community involvement and invasive species and pest outpacing resource effect, and forest research protocols. Stepwise forest research protocol, look at this. पहिलो कुरा टाइटल हुनु पऱ्यो, इन्ट्रोडक्सन, त्यसपछि अब्जेक्टिभ एन्ड हाइपोथेसिस, लिटरेचर रिभ्यू, मेथोडोलोजी, इथिकल कन्सिडरेसन, डाटा कलेक्सन एन्ड म्यानेजमेन्ट, टाइमलाइन, budget and resource, collaborators roles, dissemination plan, reference and application. We can see title and in a define problem, research question and rationally, define problem, research question and rationally, objective and hypothesis, clear state goal and testable hypothesis, literature review, summarize relevant previous study and theory, methodology, design experimental observational survey, data collection tools and sampling strategy, statistical analysis and experimental design, ethical consideration, inform consistent confidentiality, environmental safety, and data collection and management. Okay, data collection and management, procedures for recording, storage and protection, timeline, outline milestones, collection, analysis and reporting, budget and resource, financial estimate, equipment, personnel, collaborators and roles, define responsibility, dissemination plan, publication, workshops, presentation, and reference and appendix, include relevant forms, permits, or supplementary materials, and methodology and principle of forest research चाहिँ हामी तो एप्रोच मेथोडोलोजी, प्रब्लम आइडेन्टिफिकेसन एन्ड हाइपोथेसिस फर्मुलेसन, त्यसपछि रिसर्च प्रपोजल प्रिपरेसन, field plot techniques and forest measurement, and data collection, tree attribute, stand parameter, statistical analysis, descriptive, inferential, experimental design, writing and reporting, and principles, sound statistical and experimental design, accurate forest inventory and plot layout, data relevant to forest management and growth, yield and modeling, scientific rigor, reproducibility and killer documentation, and effective communication of finding and utilization of forest research rule चाहिँ policy formulation and advocacy, inform policy, regulation and forest strategy, sustainable forest management, guide reforestation, logging and ecosystem restoration, conservation strategy, prioritize area of biodiversity protection and habitat erosion, community engagement and livelihood, design community forest initiatives, ensuring ecological sustainability, climate change mitigation adaptation, enhance forest carbon sinks and resilient, education and awareness, develop educational materials, workshop and public program, collaboration and partnerships, leverage research and expertise for research-based project, and informed decision making, enable data driven decision by policy makers and managers, and dissemination to stakeholders, share finding by seminar, conference and publication, technology transfer, applied innovative techniques to practical forest management, adaptive management, adjust strategy based on monitoring and evaluation, and international collaboration, contribute to global conservation and sustainable development, and way of dissemination of forest research. Dissemination ensured that research finding research policy makers, practitioner, academic, and the public making research impactful. Effectiveness dissemination strategy include scientific publication, conference, seminar, and workshops, report and policy brief, and online platform, press release, social media, webinar and podcast, policy brief, finding collaboration with NGO and government agencies, okay, education institution, and printed media, okay, printed media, and participatory workshops, media interview, public lecture, translation, and okay, we can see fast revision, scientific publication, okay, publics in peer-review journal related to forestry, ecology, environment, and conservation, ensure credibility and research that scientific community, conference, seminar, and workshop, present research finding, okay, present research finding for pre-feedback and discussions, offer network opportunity with researchers from different discipline, report and policy brief, prepare technical report, write papers or policy brief for a specific audience, and make complex research accessible to policymaker and practitioner. Online platform, okay, online platform मा चाहिँ share summaries in for infographic and multimedia content by website, blogs, and or research portal, broadening access to non-specialistic audience, press release, collaborate with organization to create press release highlighting key outcomes, increase media coverage and public awareness, and social media, okay, platform like Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram for update, visual contact, and discussion, and engage and diverse audience quality. त्यसपछि वेबिनार एन्ड पोडकास्ट इन्टरभ्यू फर्मेट टु प्रेजेन्ट रिसर्च एन्ड डिस्कस इम्प्लिकेसन, एलो रियल टाइम इन्गेजमेन्ट विथ पार्टिसिपेन्ट ग्लोबल्ली, एन्ड policy briefing, organized brief yarn workshops for government official, help translate research into policy decision, collaboration with NGO and government of NGO and in government agencies, and we can see sharing finding through existing network and stakeholder ensure practical application in forestry, educational institution, conduct literature workshop and seminar for student and educators, promote learning and awareness, printed materials, product brochures, pamphlet, and booklet with concise finding and useful for distribution at event and community gathering, participatory workshops, engage local community and stakeholder, encourage feedback, knowledge exchange, and community involvement, media interview, share resource through TV, radio, and newspaper view, expand public awareness and understanding, and public literature, organized seminar and lecture in collaboration with universities and community center, research a broader audience beyond academic, and translations finding into local communities, and mm, local language for wider accountability, ensure research among non-English speakers.
Key tips for maximum input. Tailored dissemination to audience need. Combine multiple methods to maximize research and application. Aim to influence policy practice, education and public awareness. Forest extension. We can study forest extension concept. Forest extension behaviors applied non-school education process where learner and teachers combine contribute aim to at individual and community development. Origin and history. Originated in England बाट 1968 सक 68 बाट सफाबाट popularized by Cambridge University कामी 1973 बाट for innovation dissemination. Forest first used in agriculture by Voorhees 1984 फायर भएर भोरेसले चाहिँ एग्रिकल्चरमा एक्सटेन्सन युज गर्यो. एक्सपान्डेड ग्लोबल्ली पोस्ट वर्ल्ड वार आई सपोर्टेड बाई एफएओ. एन्ड क्यान सी टाइप अफ एजुकेसन फर्मल इन्फर्मल नन फर्मल एक्सटेन्सन. ओके, फर्मल स्ट्रक्चर र स्कुल बेस हुन्छ. स्ट्रक्चर हुन्छ र स्कुल बेस फर्मल भयो, स्कुलमा पढाइ हुन्छ. र इन्फर्मल डेली लाइफ लर्निङ, इन्फर्मल लर्निङ एन्ड रेडियो न्युज पेपरहरू. एन्ड नन फर्मल अर्गनाइज्ड आउटसाइड स्कुल्स एन्ड ट्रेनिङ प्रोग्राम्स प्रोटसिची एन्ड एक्सटेन्सन. नन फर्मल behavior change, knowledge, skill and attitude. Forest management training and forest extension. Interaction between forest staff and local users. Motivate communities to manage forest resource sustainably. Continuous process, transfer knowledge, skill and attitude. View as service, process and jobs. Origin of term X out plus tension, stress to extend knowledge. Encourage self-resilience and resource efficiency. Evaluation of forest extension average. Evaluation extensionist true forester average. Focus educate forest about users and implemented by outside and sociologist, anthropologist and early stage of community forestry 1970s. Forester to forest user approach. Focus empower user through training and field knowledge. Forester directly support users. Forest users to user approach focus peer-to-peer learning among forest users groups, user management, implement and monitor plan independently, and motivating philosophy. Rural peoples are intelligent and capable. Goal. Okay. Teach self help, not just give it. Teach self help, not just give it. प्रिन्सिपल अफ एक्सटेन्सन एजुकेसन. अब प्रिन्सिपल के छन् त एक्सटेन्सन एजुकेसनको हेरौँ है त. 17वटा प्रिन्सिपल छन्. पहिलो कुरा चाहिँ ग्रास रुट एप्रोच हुनु पर्यो. त्यसपछि कल्चरल त्यहाँको ग्रास रुटको कल्चरल डिफरेन्स पत्ता लगाइसकेपछि तिनीहरूको पार्टिसिपेसन गरिसकेपछि इन्ट्रेक्सन है, त्यो इन्ट्रेस्ट एन्ड निड ओरिएन्टेड के छ बुझ्नु पर्यो. त्यसपछि सेटिस्फ्याक्सन फोकस हुनु पर्यो. त्यसपछि सेटिस्फ्याक्सन भइसक्यो, तिनीहरूबाट लिडरसिप ल्याइसकेपछि डेमोक्रेटिक एप्रोच कस्तो छ र ट्रेन स्पेसियालिस्ट कस्तो छ, एडप्टेबल टिचिङ मेथडहरू हेर्नु पर्यो र प्र्याक्टिस बेस लर्निङ पनि हुनु पर्यो है त. प्र्याक्टिस बेस लर्निङ एन्ड टेक्नो कल्चर चेन्ज र एप्लाइड साइन्स एन्ड डेमोक्रेसी हुनु पर्यो र नन डिस्क्रिमिनेसन भइसकेपछि सेल्फ हेल्प हुनुपर्छ. होल फ्यामिली इन्भल्भमेन्ट भइसकेपछि ओपन सर्कुइट प्रोग्राम हुन्छ र राष्ट्रमा इभालुएसन हुन्छ. चेन्जिङ फोकस अफ एक्सटेन्सन लास्ट 50 इयर्समा चाहिँ 1960मा चाहिँ फोकस चाहिँ टेक्नोलोजी ट्रान्सफर र मार्केट ओरिएन्टेडमा फोकस थियो र 1980मा चाहिँ पार्टिसिपेटोरी टेक्नोलोजी र सोसियल जस्टिस एन्ड इन्डिजिनस नलेज कुराहरू र 1990मा चाहिँ अनवर्डमा सोसियल लर्निङ, इकोलोजिकल सस्टेनेबिलिटी, मल्टी स्टेकहोल्डर सिस्टममा र रिकग्निसनमा चाहिँ टेक्नोलोजी एडप्टेसन डिपेन्ड्स अन एसएस सोसियल इक्विटी and local condition and partnerships among research extension and farmer improve adaptation. Institutional reforms of extension was driven by financial pressure and government's reforms, decentralized, participatory and pluralistic approach, and new service providers, NGO, farmer organization and private sectors. institutional मोडलमा चाहिँ मल्टी स्टेकहोल्डर पार्टनरसिप्स चिलो, इस्टोनिया र हङ्गेरी र कस्ट रिकभरी, कन्ट्र्याक्चुअल स्किम्स, OECD countries and privatization, commercialization, Netherlands NZ, and decentralization to local communities, Nepal, and economic, environmental, and extension, and forest liberation, increase uncertainties for small product, and challenge lack of market info, poor infrastructure and capital constraint. Extension response saying capacity building for farmer and facilitating market information access and participatory market chain analysis र बेनिफिट सेयरिङ मेकानिजमको कुराहरू. त्यसपछि गएर क्यारेक्टरिस्टिक अफ इफेक्टिभ एक्सटेन्सनमा चाहिँ डिमान्ड ड्राइभन र प्लुरालिस्टिक्स मल्टिपल सर्भिस प्रोभाइडर र क्यापासिटी बिल्डिङ फोकस हुनु पर्यो. फ्यासिलिटेट्स एसेस टु टेक्नोलोजी एन्ड इन्फर्म इनकर्पोरेट बेनिफिट सेयरिङ एन्ड मार्केट एसेस र करेन्ट एन्ड फ्युचर च्यालेन्ज चाहिँ need multi-organizational partnerships र integrate with agriculture, forestry, private sector and conservation, service driven rural population and forest extension as a discipline support community livelihood improvement and addressing challenge है farm level demand driven farmer lead extension and farmer association district national marketing collaboratives partnership government NGO research education private building equitable marketingमा चाहिँ building equitable partnership for market access forest management युनिटमा चाहिँ strength capacity to involve local population and ट्रेनिङमा चाहिँ develop curricula and material for multifunctional forest decision and forest extension model चाहिँ contractual link between farmer forester and private sector master tree growing program Australia farmer association understanding marketing chain and group promotion participatory join learning in plantation forestry clearing house for technical and market information on tree and forest product need and importance of forest extension overview forest extension is essential for sustainable forest management biodiversity conservation and watershed management participatory particularly crucial in Nepal due to community based forest management and ecological sensitivity and focus on knowledge transfer skill building and community engagement and forest management है फरेस्टमा रोल अफ एक्सटेन्सन चाहिँ disseminate knowledge skill and attitude for sustainable forest use building capacity of local communities to manage forest effectively facilitate चाहिँ preparation and implementation of operational plan promotion of agroforestry and encouragement of forest based enterprise example चाहिँ नेपाल कम्युनिटी फरेस्ट प्रोग्राम लेट 1977 FUG tailed and empowered improvement forest condition and livelihood how extension help knowledge dissemination गरिसके स्किल बिल्डिङ गर्छ र इन्गेजमेन्ट कम्युनिटी इन्गेजमेन्ट गर्छ र कन्जर्भेसन युटिलाइजेसन ब्यालेन्स नलेज डिसिमिनेसन एजुकेट अर responsible harvesting reforestation and ecosystem preservation skill building provide training on forest health wildfire prevention and pest management community engagement मा चाहिँ promote participation ownership reporting or illegal activities conservation utilization balance चाहिँ guide sustainable use while protecting ecological values and biodiversity conservation role of extension raise awareness of flora and fauna importance encourage community stewardships over habitat use non-formal education training demonstration pre-learning and example चाहिँ अन्नपूर्ण कन्जर्भेसन एरिया प्रोजेक्ट एस क्याप engage communities in ecotourism and biodiversity protection improving conservation outcomes and incomes how extension help एक्सटेन्सनले कसरी हेल्प गर्छ भन्ने कुरा छ है एस्पेक्ट एन्ड कन्डिसन अवेरनेस एन्ड एजुकेसन हेबिटाट रिस्टोरेसन थ्रेट एजुकेसन अवेरनेस एन्ड एजुकेसनमा चाहिँ teaches ecological roles endangered species and threat habitat restoration guide reforestation wildlife corridor critical habitat protection threat mitigation educate on invasive species habitat destruction and climate change and watershed management. Okay, watershed role of extension: promote sustainable water and soil resource use, help community adopt soil conservation, erosion control, afforestation, and regulate land use. Example: mm, mm, Panchase watershed project extension trained farmer on trace farming, afforestation, watershed water source protection, and reducing sedimentation and improving water availability. And how extension help चाहिँ water quality and quantity, preventing erosion, flooding, and community partnerships चाहिँ water quality and quantity, forest filter pollutant, regulate runoff and groundwater recharge, and preventing erosion and flooding, stabilize soil, absorb rain water and reduce flood risk. Community पार्टिसिपेसनमा चाहिँ facilitate communication among stakeholders for collaboratives watershed management. And forest extension is crucial for sustainable forest management, biodiversity, and water shed health. Work through knowledge, skills, community engagement, and participatory approach. Success depends on training, awareness, and collaboratives management. And mode of forest extension in Nepal. Forest extension in the extension in Nepal aim to disseminate knowledge, provide training, and engage community for sustainable forest management, biodiversity conservation, and community well-being. Various approaches are applied depending on local ecosystems, cultural, and forest management need. Okay, training workshops model: training workshop, demonstration plot, community management, public awareness camp, field visit, and exposure tour. Okay, training and workshops मा चाहिँ organize season to teach forest management, tree planting, pest control, and biodiversity conservation. And practical skilling building for communities, forest user, and officials. Demonstration plot चाहिँ small area showcasing best practice in forestry. And agroforestry models, sustainable harvesting, watershed management. And community meeting मा चाहिँ regular gathering to discuss issues, share information, and gathering feedback. Collaboration between local resident forest authority and stakeholders. Public awareness campaign, educating the public using poster, radio, social media, and promote behavior change, forest conservation and biodiversity protection. Field visit, exposure tour, hand-on visit to successful forestry project. Participant observe, practice, interact with expert, gain practical experience. Okay, and mobile apps and technology, use of digital tools to provide information on forest management. Apps for species ID, local regulation, improve access in remote area. Community forest user group, local organization managing specific forest area. Channel extension service empowerment and communities in ensure participation. Government NGO collaboration. Okay, join forest to deliver extension program. NGO bring resource, expertise, and innovation to complement government works. Capacity building, enhancing skill of communities, users, and officials. turning in technical, administrative, and governance aspect of forestry. Participatory approachमा चाहिँ involve stakeholders in decision making for forest management and promote ownerships, accountability, and uh, long long-term sustainability. Key takeaway: Nepal use a multi-pronged approach to forestry extension. Method range from traditional meeting demonstration to moderate mobile app participatory governance. Focus is on community innovation, knowledge sharing, and sustainable forest use. And you can see mode of extension and example. Okay, training and workshops, fire and harvesting training in Kabri Plansok, demonstration plot, agroforestry agroforestry demo in Lalitpur by FRTC, community meeting, CFUG planning and conflict resolution in Chiton, public awareness campaign, Haryoban street drama and radio in Nuakot and Gorkha, field visit and exposure tour, Makwanpur users visiting Dolakha CFUG, mobile FM technology, हाम्रो वन app use in Bajura, CFUG base extension, Bharakkhore, CFUG in Navalprasi, managing forest and services, government NGO collaboration, Care Nepal and Forest Office in Sindhu Lee on NTFP involves. Okay, capacity building master MSPFP in Toilek and Rolpa turning in governments and forest enterprise. Participatory approach, Ilam participatory biodiversity mapping and planning development. Some practical application in Nepal चाहिँ के छन् भन्दाखेरि मोडेलहरू इन्डिभिजुअल कन्ट्याक्ट वान अन वान सपोर्ट example range visit for operational plan discussion and group contact group turning meeting CFUG formulation and joint patrolling mass media radio posters print media radio Nepal program and awareness poster and demonstration field based practical learning agroforestry plot in demo plot in Japa and pre to pre learning user to user exchange experimental FUG training nice boring groups and workshops and training formal knowledge platform leadership training by fake one and PRA and community mobilization चाहिँ participatory planning and engagement PRA in Ramechhap and mother group mobilization. Theory of motivation explain why individual act in certain way. Theory are broadly classified into contact, need and process, learning behavior based perspective, contact theory, need based, content theory, content theory, focus on internal drive on or need that push individual to act. Principle individual action are motivated by unmet need. Satisfaction of one need lead to emergence of another. Key need need drives action, action and satisfaction. Need drive action satisfaction and DAS. Example Maslow hierarchy of need and Hertzberg two factor theory and MC Gregor theory of XY and Maslow hierarchy of need. Motivation based on 5 level of need. Okay, Maslow 5 level of need from basic to high. I just physical satisfaction, safety, physiological safety, love and belonging, esteem, self-actualization. Physiological, basic survival need: air, water, food and shelter, clothing, sleeps and reproduction चाहिँ physiological need हो. Satisfaction, safety चाहिँ security, stability, health, protection from harms, financial security चाहिँ safety, love and belonging चाहिँ social connection, family, friendship, community, affection and group memberships and esteem चाहिँ self respect है, self respect, confidence, recognition, reputation and achievement. Self actualization चाहिँ realized full potential, creativity and personal growth and moral development and purpose driven actions and peak experience and key idea चाहिँ motivation moves upward and lower need must be rarely relatively satisfied before higher need emerge and learning theory चाहिँ process oriented चाहिँ focus on how behaviors is shaped by experience, environment and reinforcement. Stimulus response theory चाहिँ कनेक्सनिस्ट theory. Stimulus response theory भने connectionist theory. Principle: a stimulus causes a response. Learning occurs through repetition and reinforcement. Assumption and law: learner should be active, learning by doing, and frequency of repetition strengthens learning. Reinforcement is key. Reward and punishment. Law of readiness: learning must be ready to learn. Law of exercise: practice strength learning. And law of effect: positive outcomes reinforcement behaviors. Law of belonging: social connection enhance learning. And cognitive theory. Okay, cognitive theory principle: behavior is influenced by perceptions of stimulus, not the stimulus alone. Focus mental processes, understanding and interpretation of environment. Motivation theory learning perspective मा चाहिँ प्रिन्सिपल वान्ट, निड, डिजायर, गोल. वान्ट हुनु पऱ्यो, निड हुनु पऱ्यो, डिजायर हुनु पऱ्यो, गोल हुनु पऱ्यो एन्ड एस्पिरेसन लिड टु स्पेसिफिक एक्टिभिटी. लर्निङ अकर्स. क्विक मेमोरी. कन्टेन्ट थ्योरी लर्निङ थ्योरी र मोटिभेसन इन लर्निङ. कन्टेन्ट थ्योरी निड ड्राइभ्स एक्सन, त्यसपछि निड ड्राइभ एक्सन, सेटिस्फ्याक्सन र मास्लो पिरामिडको कुराहरू आयो. र लर्निङ थ्योरी स्टिमुलस, पर्सेप्सन र रिस्पोन्स, रेइन्फोर्समेन्ट बिहेभियर्स. मोटिभेसन इन लर्निङ डिजायर एक्सन लर्निङ. ओके, you can see steps in teaching process. Wilson and Gallup. Attention, interest, desire. AIDCS. Okay, AIDS. Okay. Attention भावना interest, desire was desire भावना जी conviction, last time satisfaction. Theory of motivation theory explain why individual behaves the why they do. Broadly, they are classified content need theory, what drives people need and desire, and the need based theory, process learning behavior based theory, flow of how motivation work, mechanisms reinforcement cognition, content theory है ना, मास्लो, हर्ट्जबर्ग टू फैक्टर आणि MC Krieger theory of X by theory X people dislike work need control, theory X मा people dislike work होइन काम गर्न मन पराउँदैनन् थ्योरी एक्समा, र थ्योरी वाइमा चाहिँ पिपुल आर सेल्फ मोटिभेटेड एन्ड सिक रेस्पोन्सिबिलिटी. की एस्पेक्ट अफ content theory focus on what motivates people, internal need satisfaction. Process learning theory definition, this theory emphasizes how motivation work, focusing stimuli, cognition and reinforcement rather than the need itself. Stimulus response theory, connectivist theory र cognitive theory. Motivate depends on an individual perception and interpretation of a situation, not just the stimulus. Focus on mental processing, understanding and meaning making. Motivation learning theory, desire, need, goal and aspiration drive action which lead to learning. Emphasize goal directed behaviors and experience driven motivation. Key aspect of process theory, focus on how motivation happen, behavior shapes by environment, reinforcement and cognition. Summary of difference, focus questions answer example approach. Context theory र process learning theory, content theory र process learning theory. Need and drive on instance the individual mechanism of behavior and learning. Question answer, what motivation people, how are people motivated. Example Maslow or Orsbor's MC Grieger, stimulus response cognitive motivation learning. Statics focus on internal state, dynamic focus on behaviors experience perception. Motivation theory one page summary. Content need based र you can see process learning based theory. Quick memory 8, content what motivate, need hygiene recognition, process how content मा what motivate, need hygiene recognition, process मा how motivate happen होइन. stimulus cognition reinforcement, Maslow pyramid of need, Hertzberg hygiene vs motivators, MC Grieger XY assumption. Learning theory, action through perception plus experience plus reinforcement. Action through perception, experience and reinforcement. External activity in community and private forest project. The activity and implemented to promote sustainable forest management, enhance livelihood and ensure community participation. Activity capacity building and skill development. Training on silviculture, nursery training and TAP processing, forest fire control, specific training for women and marginalized group on governance and clothing. त्यसपछि गएर चाहिँ MSFP skill training for CPUG in Rolpa, Dailik, Ramesab Community Forest Enterprise and Development and Forest Codification, Technical bag stopping and demonstration plot. Establish demo plot for agroforestry improved species planting, resin tapping, on-site quenching by forest techniques. FRTC agroforestry demo plot in Lalitpur and Kavre Palansuk fodder, tree integration, soil conservation. Community mobilization and participatory planning. Engage local facilitator and user groups for forest operational plan pre prep and revision, participatory biodiversity monitoring and resource mapping, Haryo program, biodiversity assessment and climate adaptation, planning Gorkha, Chiton and Lomjung, and use of ICT and digital tools, mobile app for forestry inventory, operational planning, species ID digital platform for remote extension. हाम्रो वन app species info forest law planning guidelines in remote area like Bozang and Bajura, linking forest management to livelihood, support for anti cultivation, marketing, value chain development, promote private forestry for timber, the timber and fuel wood, and Superman private forest grower in Dhankuta and Teorathum market, link and silviculture guidelines, and awareness and environmental education, eco club activity, forest related drama, poster campaign, environmental day celebration, media and social media outreach, COFS caption, radio talk show and inner schools quiz contest in Nolparasi and Kaski, support to private forestry, nursery registration, seedling certification, private forest registration, promotion of higher value timber species and bamboo plantation, PSFP training and grant for private forest registrations or cultivation of teak and champ in Chiton Makan. Key takeaway: community participation central to all extension activity, skill development and technical support. Ensure sustainable forest management, ICT and digital tools. Improve reach, especially in remote area. Linking forest to livelihood. Encourage both conservation and economic benefit. Awareness and education, building a conservation culture. Rare and educated wildlife in Nepal. IUCN Red List of Threatened Species established 1964 by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, and purpose global assessment of conservation status of species, animals, plant, fungi, provide information on range, population size, habitat ecology, threat use, trade, conservation action, significance indicator of the health of biodiversity and help inform conservation decision. IUCN Red List category, okay, different IUCN Red List क्याटेगोरीहरू हामीले पढ्न सक्छौँ है. डाटा डिफिसिट, insufficient informed to assess extension risk, and least concern LC evaluated but does not qualify as threatened, near threatened, linked to qualify for threatened status in near future, vulnerable, high risk of extinction in the world, endanger, meet criteria like 50देखि 70% population decline in 10 year, geographic area 5000 km square, population of 2500 adult, critically endangered, extremely high risk of extinction in the wild, only survival in capacity, no free living population. Pere, David's deer, Socorro, Dove, Hawaiian crow, extinct, completely disappeared from the planet, no living individuals. Bali tiger, Caspian, Bali tiger, Caspian tiger, golden toads, passenger pigeons, western black rhinoceros. And a key point for Nepal context: Nepal hosts several rare and endangered species, many listed in IUCN Red List category. Red List help prioritize conservation and design protected area management strategy. Conservation actions include habitat protection, capacity building, population monitoring, and community engagement. Okay, geographical distribution, habitat, and behaviors of common, rare, and endangered wild mammals, bird, and reptiles in Nepal.